Hi, Ross Pluskin here at the Top Shelf Aquatics Farm. And here I am in my natural environment, amongst the phytoplankton. Now, today I would like to talk about one of the most important nutritional elements that exist in all of reef keeping, in all of aquaculture, yes, indeed, of all human and pretty much all animal health. Today, we are going to be talking about fats. Now, the brown algae you see in back of me, Tisochrysis lutea, why do I grow it and why do we market it under the name golden fats? Now, what if I told you that there wasn't a shark cell, a fish cell, a human brain cell, a caterpillar cell, a rainbow trout tongue cell? What if I told you that all these cells, all these very important cells doing very important things, all of this wonderful faculties that cells did, it all required energy and fuel. And the fuel and the main currency of energy, long term anyway, when it comes to all animals, is all fats. It's lipids. Fats, whether or not they exist on a slab of butter on your living room, or whether or not they exist dissolved and fueling the cells of Tisochrysis you see behind me, fats are the currency. They are the giant energy-filled batteries that allow us to do everything. Now, why do I bring it up, and what do I mean when I refer to golden fats, and how does this relate to the wonderful microalgae species you see behind me? Well, let's do a quick comparison between, let's say, a slab of butter that you have out on your fridge and, let's say, olive oil. And then we'll do a comparison to that and the oils made by Tisochrysis. Now, the slab of butter. When you leave it out and it melts at room temperature, it doesn't really get too viscous. Now, when we have thick fats that are more or less solid at room temperature or more solid at higher temperatures, they are called saturated fats. Now, why do we care about saturated fats? Because as a fuel source, they are relatively inferior. When you burn a saturated fat for energy, electrons come off of this saturated fat, and these electrons are like stray sparks in your electrical panel. Probably do very little. But over time, enough sparks are flying, a little singe here, a little alteration there. Over time, all those little sparks, all those little imperfections add up. Now those sparks, those electrons have a name, and it's called inflammation. Inflammation is something that some cells can do for defense purposes, but for the most part, it is something that aggravates structures. It destabilizes over time. To burn inferior saturated fats, to eat a bunch of butter, usually doesn't make you feel good in the long term. If you eat 3 sticks of butter, you do not feel great. There is a tax that comes. All that inflammation eventually clogs your system. It sends little strays off. It disrupts things. Now, you, me, deer, freshwater fish, a largemouth bass, all good examples of terrestrial and freshwater animals that can deal with saturated fats. We have little bacteria in our guts, and we have enzymes that basically make them the fuel that we need. Because when it comes to eye cells and brain cells and liver cells and important cells, they need a different kind of fat. They don't need dirty gas station, watered down petrol. They want pure, refined, high octane race car fuel. That's what these very specific cells need. Now, in our bodies, it's the very specific important cells, the eyes, the brains, the livers, the kidneys. If you live in the saltwater environment, you need that jet fuel for pretty much everything. You don't have the tools to take in inferior fats and make them superior. So, when it comes to living in the saltwater environment, everything is based around the currency of golden fats. Now, what is a golden fat? Now, we'll compare that slab of butter to olive oil, or better yet, cod liver oil you might get at the pharmacy. It's almost a very thin liquid at room temperature. It is not saturated at all. It is the opposite. It is an unsaturated fat. And basically what that means is that it has a bunch of double bonds in the structure, and every double bond dramatically increases the amount of energy that can be stored in that fat. And it's these super fats, these golden fats, three in particular. We have the arachidonic acid, the ARA, we have EPA, and we have DHA. Every biological organism is designed to turn inferior fats into those golden fats. It is those golden fats which allow every marine critter to operate for both short and long-term health. Why are they so superior? Why, when a golden fat gets burned for energy, there is no inflammation? Very minimal. It is clean burning fuel. Better yet, burning golden fats even reduces inflammation in cells that are exhibiting it. So by having clean burning fuel enter the system of everything from a coral up into a sardine, up into a tuna, we can allow for these wonderful marine organisms to develop that need to burn this incredible clean burning fuel. If you feed a tang some freshwater fish food that's low in these golden fats, it's not necessarily going to die the next day or exhibit malnutrition the next day. But if you feed a baby tang, a larval tang, a blue tang that you're trying to breed for the first time, if you're trying to give that first larval tang its first meal, and that meal does not have sufficient amounts of EPA and DHA, that larvae will starve. And this has been the primary bottleneck when it comes to breeding all kinds of marine fish. Because if we're not able to get golden fats into their bodies early on in life, within days or hours of them hatching, they will die. This is why you see fish oil or whole fish as the most important ingredient in most, if not all, of your marine foods. Without those golden fats, your fish will essentially starve to death, even if being supplied every amount of energy that they need. Where do those sardines, those anchovies, where do all those forage fish get all their golden fats that we're going to smash, gurry, and extract in the first place? They are nothing but swimming filters, gathering a bunch of wild diatoms and algae such as Tisochrysis and concentrating up all the golden fats made by this species of phytoplankton. Let's take a quick look at a young culture and a more developed culture, one that's 1 day old versus one that's 7 days old. We can see that one is a lot clearer and one is almost developing what I consider the chocolate milk phase. And that's because as Tisochrysis grows and develops a population, eventually it hits a phase where it's no longer going to increase in population. The Isochrysis cells detect that space is getting cramped and cramped. They know that winter is coming because resources will become scarce and scarce, and they use that opportunity to rapidly increase the amount of golden fats that they're able to produce and store in giant vacuoles or like oil drums inside their cell. And this is what makes that really dark brown coloration, is both the pigments and the accumulation of these golden fats. Now, by being able to culture Tisochrysis, both at facilities like here and at commercial aquaculture facilities, we are able to create the golden fats de novo, not only not relying at all on wild-caught forage fisheries, but being able to have living fats trapped inside of a living package that can then be fed directly to a coral or a copepod, and that coral or that invert can eat and directly receive that golden fats, or they can be used to grow some wonderful copepod species we'll talk about in another episode, so that those copepods can be full of golden fats and be used to feed the first early larvae of tangs or groupers or anything else that we're trying to breed sustainably. So Tisochrysis, a wonderful production house of golden fats, and we salute Tiso for that reason, and we love it here, and we hope that you love it too. So I'd like to leave this episode on a question. Any of you dose Tisochrysis into your tank? What did you find the result was? Any of you do any home marine fish breeding or invertebrate breeding at home? Have you ever tried Tisochrysis to grow some of the more difficult copepods? Please comment below. We love to talk about this species. It is one of my favorites and why I made sure that it was one of the first that we introduced in our Reef Genetics line. Thank you, and we will see you next time.